Since its invention in the beginning of the 20th century, nuclear energy has been the source of a lot of trouble. From the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki to the 50-ish years of constant fear in operation brought by the Cold War, and more recently, the radioactive material leak in Fukushima. With all this, it will seem nuclear power is the baddie in the story, right? Is it though? Not really. First, we'll go through the upsides of nuclear power plants, then it's the necessary use of nuclear weaponry. Well, to understand why nuclear energy is so good, we must understand how current nuclear power plants work. For the sake of brevity, this will be overly simplified, so pardon me if I don't cover everything about nuclear reactors. So first, you need to initiate and control a self-sustained nuclear chain reaction. This will generate a fuck ton of heat, which can then be used to boil water. With that, you can either use it to cook pasta extremely quickly or run through steam turbines to produce electricity. This means that the big smoke clouds that are coming out of these iconic cooling towers, which cyanide are also used in coal power plants and petrochemical plants, are just made of water vapor, just like regular clouds. Also, they are not radioactive as they do not come in contact with radioactive material at any moment. This makes nuclear energy surprisingly clean considering all the bad PR it received in the last couple of decades, right? In fact, it's estimated that since its commercialization in the 1970s, nuclear power has prevented about 1.84 million air pollution-related deaths and the emission of about 64 billion tons of carbon dioxide that would have resulted from burning the fossil fuels. And even better, technologies such as nuclear reprocessing that is already capable of recovering bits of uranium that could remain in use during the reaction already exist, and will make it possible to reduce the amount of waste produced by the nuclear power plants. Also, depleted uranium can be used for its incredible density and heat resistance, which makes it a perfect replacement for more costly materials like tungsten or lead. One of the main upsides of nuclear energy is how efficient it is. For a small amount of uranium, you can extract enough energy to power a small city. Furthermore, the planet has a lot of uranium, enough to last us for more than one generation or 80 years. In the next 80 years, we will have to develop a new energy source. I will be going through candidates for this position in another video. Well, what about nuclear weapons? They can be good. Well, I can't argue with that. In an ideal world, nuclear weapons, in fact any weapons, should be removed. But we don't live in an ideal world. We live in a world of conflict and diplomacy, where nuclear dissuasion is key to have another conflict, and if you are head of state, it's a key to get pretty much anything. If it weren't for them, World War III and even World War IV to have inevitably happened. In short, nuclear weapons save millions of lives by threatening billions of others.